Hello everyone and welcome. Today I wanted to go over some easy tweaks that I do with my Fedora system. I know that I've probably mentioned in some of my other videos, Fedora is one of my favorite distros, absolutely favorite distros. Every time I've ever used it, it's always had a more professional feel to it. Although I will admit it was much easier to break when I was first getting started with Linux and first messing with things. Something doesn't work, so you find a tutorial. Tutorial tells you, hey, edit this config file, and then boom, all of a sudden it's broken. So I did, when I was first starting out with Linux, have issues with breaking my Fedora. But overall, and that was back in the days where Fedora was GNOME based, very, very GNOME based. That was pretty much the distro that it was using. I know it still is primarily GNOME based, but that was back in the old GNOME days, 2 point, I guess not super old GNOME days, but before the new GNOME 3 and all that came out. But every time I've ever used it, it's always been a stable environment. It's always felt more professional than any of the other distros. It's just one of my favorites. So sometimes people get a little shied away because sometimes it's kind of hard to start working on the configuration. So I wanted to show you guys some simple tricks to quickly customize up your Fedora. So as you guys can see, I'm using Fedora KDE because I love KDE. I love it so much more than GNOME. Although I'm not against GNOME and I enjoy GNOME as well, but I just always preferred KDE. Anyway, so this right here is not a vanilla installation. It's my personal device that I use on a day-to-day basis, so it's already customized up. So I love this background. I found it on Google. So the first thing, if you did have a vanilla installation, so you were just installed it, you updated your system, ran through the first updates, I always generally will reboot after that first update. That way it switches over to the newest kernel and it's just refreshed. So the first thing I install after updates is if you go to your search browser and you search Fedy, F-E-D-Y. This right here is it's basically an application that you can install that helps you with tweaking, installing packages and everything like that easily. So if you go to Fedy, you'll see that it has this command right here. If you copy this, go into your terminal, you're just going to paste it into your terminal, and then you're going to hit enter. It's going to download fedy.install. It's going to change the execution so that it can execute, and then it's going to run the installer. So when it runs the installer, it's going to set up all the repositories. Now I already have it set up on this computer, so I will just show you some of the repositories. So if we switch to the repos directory and look at it, so it will end up installing all the RPM fusions. It will, the free and non-free. It has its own, I thought it had its own, but it'll set up most of these repositories for you so that way it makes it easier. Some of the repositories like Google Chrome and Steam and Handbrake and Cisco, most of these, even Copper, I think, pretty sure Copper, I could be wrong on that one, but all of these repos it'll basically create for you as it's installing applications for you. So you ran Fedy installer, you let it install, it updated, then the next thing you're going to do is you're just going to run Fedy. So you're just going to type in F-E-D-Y, you install it, it's an application, and run it. This is what the window looks like when you first start. So you'll see there's apps, there's themes, and there's tweaks. So we'll start with the tweaks. So it creates better font rendering, and it's better font rendering compared for the person who made this. They prefer the font like this. If you like your font the way it is, you don't have to install this. It's got a utility right here to clean up your junk. So disable mouse acceleration if you don't like mouse acceleration. Disk I/O scheduler is supposed to boost performance for both solid state drives and just regular hard drives. Fancy bash prompt if you like colors and stuff to make your bash. Grub2 configuration, so if you were to actually edit your Grub2, you would just click on configure and it should run to basically update your grub. Permissive Linux, if you don't like getting the Linux security updates, or not updates, the security warnings that it gives you, it makes it where it's a little bit more permissive so it doesn't bother you as much. And touchpad tap. So if you wanted to use any of these, all you would click on the blue, and then it'll ask you for your password. Type in your password and hit enter. Then task complete. So that one takes just a few minutes or a few seconds. Go over here to themes. If you like to install the themes, arc themes, paper themes, just click on install, put in your password, and it'll start to install. Then you have your apps. So over here in your apps, Adobe Flash. If you need Adobe Flash, I generally will run with Chrome, so Flash is installed with Chrome. If you're using Chromium, you use the Pepper Flash player, so that would be a little bit different. Archive formats. Archive formats are always a must. Atom is a kind of updated text editor. I actually have recently installed this, so I haven't done a lot of playing around with it. Brackets is an open source code editor. Dropbox, most of you probably already know about Dropbox. Encrypted DVD playback, so that way you can watch your DVDs. Google Chrome, if you're a Google Chrome user like I am. And when you click on install on this, put in your password, that's when it creates that repo that we just looked at in the Google Chrome repo in your Yum repos. Handbrake. Handbrake is a video transcoder. It also rips DVDs. Master PDF editor. The Microsoft TrueType core fonts. Multimedia codecs, so that it'll play pretty much any multimedia that you have. Oracle JDK, Oracle JRE. You can use OpenJDK, OpenJRE if you want. I typically will install the Oracle ones because it makes Android Studio a little bit easier. It doesn't complain as much. Skype. Always install Skype because that's what my family uses to keep in touch, and we live on opposite sides of the country. If you like Spotify, you can install Spotify. I haven't had much luck with Spotify on Linux, though. It's always fails. The application seems to shut down. If I try and use the files that are actually on my computer, is usually where it'll kind of crap out. Steam, if you like to play games, if you have a Steam account, install Steam. And that also is one of the repositories that you saw earlier, was Fedora Steam repo. Sublime Text, which is another text editor for code, markup, and prose. Telegram is a messaging app. Theme engines used by GTK themes to draw widgets. Visual Studio Code, Vivaldi, which is a advanced web browser, and WPS Office, which is, it interfaces a lot better if you have to use Microsoft applications for Word and all that. So that is everything that comes with Fedy, and honestly, once you run pretty much all the ones in here that you want, your system will work pretty much everything that you need right there. Obviously, you might want to install a different Office program other than WPS if you want to install LibreOffice. LibreOffice, just DNF install LibreOffice, and it'll install LibreOffice. Now, this system that I'm currently on, you might have kind of wondered, is Fedora Core 25, so I'm using the new one that's going to come out here in November. Typically, if you have a clean Fedora 25 it won't install Fedy because they haven't updated their repos yet. They might have since the time of this video, but when I was using a clean install of Fedora 25, they hadn't updated where you could actually install Fedy, the application, because their repos weren't up to date yet. So this is actually Fedora 24 that had Fedy installed on it, had all these apps installed, and then I upgraded to Fedora 25. I will also say I have not had a single issue with my Fedora 25 since I installed it. Alright guys, that is a quick, easy rundown of how to get set up on Fedora and make your system extremely usable real quick. Alright, thank you guys.